The following program is sponsored by LBO Academy.
This is the Lifestyle Business Owner Show, where we talk about the street smarts of small business. Your hosts are Aaron and Mayumi Muller, owners of 8 companies that run without them, and founders of the LBO Academy. It's your turn to discover how you can own a business that runs without you. Now, here's Aaron and Mayumi.
Good morning, everyone. You're listening to Aaron Muller with the Lifestyle Business Owner Show, where we talk about the street smarts of small business. If you guys can't listen to the entire show today, go on to our website at lboradio.com. That's lboradio.com. And you can either download this entire episode or you can download any of our old episodes. Our show today, we're going to be talking about sales, and more sales. Because we all know as business owners that if you don't have sales, guess what? Then you aren't in business. So our guest today is James Alberson. He's with, actually a franchisee owner of Sandler Training of Tukwila, Washington. James is a national sales expert and business speaker, and he helps business owners and their teams improve their sales effectiveness. But also, today I got my co-host with me, Mayumi Muller. She's not only my business partner, but also my partner in life. She's an amazing woman, a true hustler. And if I didn't have her by my side, I would never have the success I do. Mayumi, why don't you say hi to everyone?
Well, good morning, everyone. I am so excited because my background is sales. I mean, people used to say I could always sell ice to an Eskimo, and you know you're a good salesperson if you can do that. I've
You
known
sold me,
James.
baby. You sold me.
I did sell him. I did. Was it a good purchase?
Yeah, best
good.
ever.
Okay, good. Well, I've known James, I was just thinking in my head, for over 4 years now, probably 5 years. And he is a phenomenal person outside of the business aspect. But his company, Sandler Training, is just a great area to go to if you are wanting to learn how to sell, cold call. If you want your management team to learn how to teach their employees. So let's get into it. James, thank you so much for being on the show this morning.
Thank you for having me. And by the way, Mayumi, it's actually closer to 6 or 7 years because I met you. I've been doing this for about 8 years, and I met you about a year into it.
Wow.
So,
Awesome.
time
Don't make
flies.
me feel like I'm old.
Well, both of you guys look great. So
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, anyways, let's get into it now. So, James, could you tell us a little bit about your background and why you decided to become a sales trainer? That's the first part. And then when you tell us about that, why did you buy a franchise?
Okay, that's an easy start.
Good.
So my background is basically about 20 years before Sandler in medical sales. In the medical sales arena, started off pharmaceuticals, moved to biotech, then diagnostic devices, and a little bit of equipment. And in that time period, worked for bigger companies such as Baxter Healthcare, Johnson & Johnson, and things like that, but also smaller startups, and was everything from a rep to a specialty rep to a manager, training assignments. So we were exposed to a lot of different sales training type programs. Sometimes it seems like the flavor of the year, if you will.
Right.
All basically saying the same things, just warmed over and altered just a bit. And as far as the franchise, at some point, I came across Sandler by accident, and as I learned more about it, I realized that this was something a lot different than something I had experienced before. And it was just one of those things they say, if you're going to bet on anything, bet on yourself. Just things aligned, and I thought, okay, I think I should go on my own. And to answer the second part of the question, why a franchise? Because a lot of people hang up their shingle. They learn to do something. They say, okay, well, let me just show, hey, James Alberson selling techniques and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Right.
But with the franchise, I mean, it's proven. It's a proven model. Sandler's been around for almost 50 years. You don't have to
Credibility.
credibility. You don't have to create a lot of things yourself. I have a network of 250 colleagues around the world that I can tap into for
nice.
best practices.
So you've had a great experience dealing with the franchise, it sounds like.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because there's always like mixed feelings about that, like from business owners. So That's a good thing, and they provide a lot of support on top of it.
Yes, they do, and I think Sandler's one of the better franchises.
Uh-huh.
I've been exposed to some other people with other franchises, and you really have to do your homework.
Yeah, absolutely.
There are some scary stories out there, but then there are people who are very happy, like myself and a lot of my colleagues. So it's not that the franchise model is just absolutely what you go for. You gotta look at it and say, is this for me, and is this going to work the way I want it to?
Right.
For
yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
So as far as entrepreneurs go, why do entrepreneurs need to get sales training? You're a business owner. What do you, I mean, obviously sales are important, but what about the training aspect versus not? And
Right. It's a great question, and one I face all the time. And I like to put it like this: a lot of entrepreneurs, they go into doing whatever they do. They're great at what they do.
Okay.
But they stink at getting people to pay them for it.
All right.
Typically.
Oh yeah.
I can see that.
Right.
Yep.
And the other thing is, they don't really necessarily want to sell. They want the business, but they don't want to be perceived as a salesperson. Nobody does, because it has a negative stigma.
Yep.
And that's their perception of sales. So why do they need training? Because they actually need to have a strong, effective, and efficient selling process that really goes away from what they think selling is. They go in thinking, well, I have to convince them. That's the first problem. I have to convince them that I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread. Well, how do I do that? Well, I talk up my features and my benefits. I say how great I am and how much integrity I have and that sort of thing. And, well, they should believe me because I'm a good person. Well, the problem is, what do you think your competitor is saying?
Right, exactly.
And it's so basic, right? I mean, like, that's just such a basic way of looking at it.
And people basically just don't trust someone who is in a selling position. That's just a negative stigma. And so if you're counting on your product, the features and benefits of your product to convince them to do everything, to basically sell itself, because all you're doing is communicating that, then I say you can be replaced with a really comprehensive marketing flyer, an order form, and a homing pigeon, right? Because there's something else involved in that, and that's the human dynamic involved in communicating, so that you discover somebody has a need that you can fill, and you walk through with a very controlled and efficient process to get to the point of determining one of two things. We do business, it makes sense for us to do business, or we're not a fit, and that's fine. And I go find somebody who actually is a better fit for me.
Right. I like what you said, you find the need and fill it, and that's the key. We talk about it on many of our shows, is just, salespeople really, the key to their success is to listen, right? And listen to what the client...
and educate the client.
Exactly.
It's not about like, oh, we have the best company and we're going to do the best for you and all that stuff. I mean, that's boring, right?
Right.
I mean, nobody wants to hear that. That's just normal. I mean, we expect that.
Right.
If I'm going to buy from you, you are going to give me that, right?
Right.
So now what are you going to tell me? What's special about you, right? So it's teaching. It sounds like you guys are teaching people how to think beyond just selling something, right? And that's the misconception I think a lot of people even have all in general that aren't what they call salespeople, right?
Right.
You can break it down like this. Sales is really about two things. It's about behavior and it's about communication. Behavior. Are you doing the right things consistently to give yourself the opportunity to talk to the right prospective clients? And then once you are put in that position, how are you communicating to lead to the end a successful sale? Are you asking the right questions? Are you asking them at the right time? Are you, quite frankly, just shutting up and listening?
Exactly.
Instead of thinking what your next question is going to be.
I'm guilty. Sometimes I don't shut up, but okay. So we hear this question a lot too, and with business owners, and even like Aaron was speaking at a DECA event, and you do have out there some introverts, and they just don't, selling is not their forte. So what would you say to someone who says, I just hate selling?
Okay. Well, the first question I would ask them is, well, describe for me in your view what selling is. When you say you hate selling, what does that mean? Because I want to understand their perception, because they probably think if they say I hate selling, I hate trying to convince somebody to do business with me. And if
Yes.
you're trying to convince somebody, then you're the Coast Guard trying to shoot a hole in somebody's boat so you can rescue them.
Exactly. Exactly.
But if you change your paradigm to say, I'm on a discovery mission
Yep.
to see if you actually have a hole in your boat,
Yeah.
to see if you actually have an issue or a challenge that I can solve, then it takes a lot of pressure off. And now I'm not selling, I'm
Right.
having a conversation.
Yep.
Absolutely. I
So
love that.
So I got a question that, when you're training, do you prefer, let's say Mayumi, she's a great salesperson. I know this. And, training somebody that's already a natural. See, I've had people work for me that were not natural salespeople. They just went through the motions of presenting the product, and they were really great about getting back to people and all those things, and that's the only way that they were able to really sell. But they weren't exceptional, and they never had exceptional months. They were just okay.
Right.
So let's say you got a guy like that, but that wants to do it, and he likes the idea of selling, or somebody like Mayumi, who's a real natural with people and knows how to go to the close and everything else. Who would you rather train, and how do you train them differently without making it an hour-long conversation?
Yeah, really. That actually is a great question. Who would I rather train? Quite frankly, I'd probably rather train. I don't mind either one because you have different dynamics with both. But if a gun was to my head, I'd rather train the first one because they're probably going to be more of an open book to help me. They probably have more intellectual humility. I can learn something. I may be scared to death, but if I give them a process, and if I can prove that, hey, you follow this process, you'll get success, they're not going to go trying to
Do it something different.
recreate the wheel
challenge
and
you.
wing
Yep.
it and challenge. I don't mind being challenged.
Yep.
But the other thing with that first one, you also have to affect their beliefs, because somebody who operates in a mediocre fashion consistently, that's what they believe they can do.
Okay.
They don't believe anything more. So therefore, it's a multifaceted approach. I can give them the process, but I got to get rid of some of the head trash they're carrying around.
That's true.
Yeah, that's hard.
Head trash. I love that.
And when that happens, it's a great thing to see.
Okay, great. No, that's awesome. So basically you're saying that the learned person like me, I might take some of your information and
Or
kind
the
of
natural person like
the
you.
natural person, and I might actually take that information and kind of incorporate my stuff, which really I'm not actively listening to the process that you're providing for me.
Well, now I don't want to give the
No.
wrong impression, because one of the things I tell our clients, look, we're not trying to just wipe the slate clean and create Stepford wives, Stepford husbands, and that sort of thing.
Exactly. Oh, you know what? I'm going to have to cut you off here. I love talking about myself, but today we're talking with James Alberson. He is a franchisee of Sandler Training here in Tukwila, Washington. We're talking about the importance of having a well-trained team of sales professionals representing your company, how James helps business owners in this field. Follow the Lifestyle Business Owner on Facebook and IG, and you can listen to the Lifestyle Business Owner Show anytime, anywhere on lboradio.com.
More of the Lifestyle Business Owner Show coming up here on Business Radio 1300 KKOL. Log on to lboradio.com while you listen to the Lifestyle Business Owner Show. Now back to Aaron and Mayumi Muller.
Welcome back to the Lifestyle Business Owner Show, where we talk about the street smarts of small business. Today we're talking with James Alberson. He is a franchisee of Sandler Training in Tukwila, Washington. We're talking about the importance of having a well-trained sales team professional representing your company and how James helps business owners in this field. We left off, we're just going to be talking about sales. And we left off with our last question about a salesperson like myself that's a natural versus a salesperson that might need a little bit more encouragement, coaching, and assistance.
So both can be trained.
Both can be trained.
just as effectively. It's just a
Absolutely.
different style that you take, probably, right?
Absolutely.
All
All
right.
right. So the next question would be, what do you see as the most common mistake people make in sales? That's a good one.
That is a good one. I would say the most common mistakes that people make in sales is they talk too much. And that can encompass quite a few things. I say they develop SOS, shiny object syndrome. I'm going to show you all of my shiny objects. Oh, no, I have one more, with the hopes that the next one is going to mesmerize you. Or
I
I'm
have
just,
that syndrome.
I'm just going to get lucky and stumble upon something that you care about.
Love
People
it.
buy for their reasons, not yours. But the
Yep.
common mistake is, well, you know what? I know I care about this. I know this
Yep.
is great. I know marketing told me this was good. I know that
Mm-hmm.
the
I
other.
think, you know what? I think
Yes,
everybody needs
I
this
agree.
refresher. I love it. I think everybody should do sales training that are in sales because,
Mm-hmm.
we all get stuck in our ways. And
Yep.
whether, you could be really effective and great at sales, but you still can learn something, right?
Right.
And so this is
Absolutely.
why the training is so important. And that's why you do it. And you could probably get somebody to be that much more effective because they start
Yeah.
thinking about what they're doing.
I'm about
Exactly
to
that-
sign back up here with Sandler training.
I know. I'm about ready to sign the white book.
Well, that was the point I was going to make before the break. Even with the person who has a lot of experience, I just say as long as you have intellectual humility and you
Yeah.
can take everything that you've done, keep doing it. I mean, don't be an idiot. I mean,
Right.
keep doing that.
Yeah.
But how can you make it better? What can you
Yeah.
stack on top of that to make you even
Yep.
better? I've had
agree.
clients who've been in sales for 30 years.
Yeah.
Who've learned to be even that much more effective. They just added one more tool to the bag.
Yeah.
That's great.
So when somebody, I want to see how good you're at sales right now. So, I can't sell it that way, James, because my customers aren't really going to buy it from me if I try to do that. So how, that approach doesn't work with my customers, and that's why they're not buying from me.
Oh, okay. Well, I hear that. I hear that quite a bit, Aaron. Let me ask you this: do you say that because you've tried and tried and tried
Yes.
again that approach that
I
you're
try
saying
all the
doesn't work?
time, James.
You're saying you've tried that approach and it's failed, or is that what you believe?
Well, I believe it because I know it.
Well, typically, when people say they believe it and they know it, but they can't give me an example
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
when they've done it,
Yeah.
that tells me that there's some head trash there. That
Yep.
tells me, hey, I'm going
I like
down this
that. I
road.
like
and
that
that's
term.
the way
Head
I wanna
trash.
go, right?
I like
Yep.
that term. Yeah.
But the other thing is this: only the people and the content change in situations. We deal with all kind of industries all around the world, and the one thing that doesn't change is the communication process
Right.
that goes into determining if somebody has a need that you can fill. Doesn't matter whether I lump in real estate, whether I lump in heavy equipment
Yep.
or financial services.
So how do you get them to
Totally
get out of
agree.
your head, out of their head like that? Because I deal with the same problem a lot of times with, let's say, somebody that has a business, and I say, you know what, you're charging too little. Oh, well, we can't charge this much over in this town. It's different than your town. And I know that's totally false information because I've been in their towns too, and
Right.
I've gotten the kind of money that I'm telling them that they need to be charging. So how do you convince that person to get out of
Or
their
help them
head
change their
and help
mindset?
them
Here's
change
the-
their mindset? Yeah.
So what you're asking is, how do you change a belief? Because that's what we're dealing with. And a lot of people think, well, what kind of technique do you use and that sort of thing? Well, there's a process to change a belief, what we call a self-limiting belief. The first thing, you have to admit that you have that belief and that it may be limiting
Yes.
you. The next
Yes.
thing we say is, well, you know what? What's the new belief you should have? And let's pretend that's there. Well, what should you believe? Right?
Right.
You model that belief and say, okay, well, let's pretend you had that belief system. How would you act? What would you do if you truly believe that? Right? And then once we identify the action, now this is the tough part. You got to go and do it. You have to
Right.
go and do it because we say there's a Sandler rule that says it's not how you feel that determines how you act. It's how you act that determines how you feel. Now that's easier
That's
said
true.
than done. I had one a client. He was a remodeler, home builder, and we talked about how he gave free estimates. I said, "Why do you give free estimates?" Well, everybody else does. Well, why wouldn't you charge for it? It takes gas to get there. It takes time and
Yep.
things like that. Well, if I charge, I won't get any business. We worked with him for a couple months. And finally, he got the gumption to actually charge for estimates.
Yeah. And it
Guess
didn't.
what?
It was
He's
amazing,
doing
right?
business.
Yep.
Yeah, no,
He
it's
never looked
I love
back.
it. So
Yep,
a lot of
I love
psychology
it.
in what you do. Lots of
Yes.
psychology in what you do.
Yes.
No, I love that. So I have one. What if someone says to you, how do I avoid sounding like a salesperson when I'm trying to prospect and get a new business?
2 words: disarming honesty. Disarming honesty. And what do I mean by disarming honesty? Well, it's basically saying things that seemingly are against your self-interest, but it's honest. Somebody says, "Why should I work with you?" If it's the initial conversation, well, my answer is, well, at this point, I don't know if you should.
Yeah.
Should we have a brief conversation to figure out exactly if you have any issues that I can address? That's the first thing, and we do a cold call clinic, cold call boot camp, and
I'm glad you brought that subject up. Go on. I want to talk about that.
Sure. Well, teaching people that we have to interrupt the pattern, if you will, in a cold call. What do people typically say when you get a cold call? Hey, this is James. How are you doing today?
Yeah.
Oh, alert, salesperson,
Yes.
salesperson.
Yes.
What if you changed it and said, "Hi, Mayumi, James Alberson. I don't know if we should be talking, but if I can tell you maybe in a minute, 30 seconds why I'm calling and see if it makes sense for a conversation, would that be okay?"
That's great.
I love it.
Asking for
Okay,
permission.
so let's
I
talk
love
about
that.
cold calling, because it is huge in a lot of businesses, not necessarily in all businesses, but
Yes.
kind of, if you really want to break it down, it could probably be utilized in every business, right? If you really want to go to that next level in your company and push the limits and say, okay, social media, I'm doing all this. I'm doing a bunch of SEO. I'm doing web stuff. I'm doing pay-per-click. I'm doing everything I can on that part. I'm dealing with the customers great on the phone, customer service, delivering the product, everything. Now I want more business, right? So I have the hardest time motivating salespeople to be proactive on the cold call because they want to take the low hanging fruit. So first off, how would you motivate a salesperson to be a cold caller? And does everybody have to be a cold caller? I mean, if you're in sales and you're not willing to do it, do you not have a career in sales?
Right. Well, I'll take that last question first. I don't think that, I don't think you're not going to have a career in sales if you don't do that. However, it may, depending on what kind of sales or industry you're in, it may limit the kind of opportunities you have. And as far as motivating somebody to cold call, I mean, some might think, okay, well, what kind of incentive do you give? It's not necessarily about that, because people are very good at prospecting avoidance behavior. And I'll do anything and everything to avoid prospecting.
I have that.
Don't give
we all do.
do not give my wife all these
Prospect
tools, these language tools.
And I mean, they'll go to social media. They'll go to everything, every passive prospecting. Like, I'll bring it to them.
Doesn't perceiving mean prospecting? I'm a P, so it doesn't. Right.
You can try and defend all you
I
want.
know, right?
The best way to, and I'll use the air bunnies, I'll use the air quotes to motivate somebody, is to give them a structure within which to work. And this is how you do it. We have our clients create what we call behavior cookbooks. How many calls do you need to make a day, whether it's in person or a walk-in or over the phone? What should that lead to? How many new conversations? I mean, you have to give them a recipe to follow, and just know that.
Speaking of the recipe,
Love that.
I do have a problem when people are overly attached to their scripts on a cold call, right? And so, I mean, I was just dealing recently with a guy that I was looking at spending a lot of money on a situation, one of the top salespeople in the nation, right? And his salespeople were the worst salespeople I've ever talked to. And I'm like, wait a minute, man, I thought this guy was supposed to be brilliant at that. And he can't even teach his own people not to read the script. They didn't even ask me once what I did about my own company, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, it was ridiculous. He went right to the script and trying to close the deal constantly, right from the very beginning. It was like the old car sales style
And
type
unfortunately,
mentality,
that's how many people are taught.
Oh my God!
I have a script. It's okay to have
I mean,
a
there's
structure.
okay from some
Right.
structure and a little bit of script if you have, if you have to deal with a situation, but like to train that, it's so obvious when somebody's on the phone.
Right, you can hear them turning the page sometimes.
Yes.
And I don't have the heart to cut cold callers off.
Yeah,
I give
it's 'cause
them
you're
them practice
career,
at
yes.
least, right? But you can hear them turn the page, and really it's about giving them a structure to follow, but to give them a little leeway within.
Right.
What are you trying to find out in this stage? I'm trying to interrupt the pattern here. I'm trying to set some expectations. I'm
Right.
trying to talk up and uncover maybe the top 3 issues, challenges they may be having. But
great.
kind of go through a process of understanding a little bit, and now I'm going to say, hey, I think we've probably talked about enough that it makes sense to set an appointment. Boom. We don't need to do that now.
Right.
Once again, wherever you're going. but the actual
So
script all the way.
uncovering, I love what James said, uncovering, what their needs are, because like you said, Aaron, they didn't even ask you what kind of business. So, I guess the script is just kind of like a blanket, right? Or a hammock to hold the cold caller, but then you're giving them permission to listen and to investigate
Right.
with the person.
Some people
that they're
need
trying-
some kind of safety net
Yeah.
to operate
let's
halfway
get
decently.
let's get a couple more questions. Try to get these
Yeah.
done. So hire good salespeople. How do you hire good salespeople? I know people want to know this,
Yes.
and try to be quick with it because we're running out of time. We
fair
only got
enough.
1 minute left.
Okay, I'll tell you this. How do you hire good salespeople? You have to have an objective assessment in your hiring process. You can't go by your gut. Because if you go by your gut and just some interview questions, you think you hired Tom Cruise, 90 days later it ends up being Tom Arnold. And so you have to, whether you do we do certain assessments when we help people hire to understand the competencies and the behaviors that somebody actually might have and bring to the job.
That's so awesome, James. Thank you so much for being on the show today here at the Lifestyle Business Owner Academy. We're not rendering financial or legal advice. We're not telling you how you should or should run your business or use your money. We're simply telling you what we do. You can reach James, which I highly recommend it, at James Alberson, so that's JALBERSON at Sandler.com. Okay, you go there, get that training. When we come back, we're going to start our LBO segment. This is where you get an opportunity to know us, and we discuss how to buy a business, grow your profits, and make it run without you. Make sure you follow us at the Lifestyle Business Owner on Facebook and IG, and always go to
Time for a
LBOradio.com.
quick break. But we'll have more of the Lifestyle Business Owner Show right after this, here on Business Radio 1300 KKOL.